So you know, Pam Nigel's son is named JP, and hence the name JP Jumpers. I understand we have some parking issues going on right now, so her husband and JP are trying to get into the building, so hopefully you'll see them later. But it's it's just a joy for me to introduce you to Pam. And she is a force of nature. She's tired of me hearing me say that by now. But all I can say is never doubt the power of a mother on a mission. And her mission has been to educate the public through various ways, to participate in autism walks, which is where I first met you probably, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's been a joy to know her, and a joy to work with her all these years. The idea of the bill was hers. I'm not that smart. And so she came to me over the summer and brought all sorts of people together, including Sergeant Sutton, for us to sit in our conference room and talk about the bill and try to make sure that it was on point and doing exactly what we wanted it to do. So without that, let me introduce you to the real author of JP's Law, Pam Ryan's.
I'm going to bring my other 2 children up before JP and Perry hopefully arrive. First of all, I would definitely like to thank Officer Sutton and Senator Donald McEachin for even going forward with this bill and working with me to try and make it come to fruition and taking it very, very seriously. This literally came to me in a dream on June 9th, and I woke up and I started typing away on my phone. And my husband said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm emailing the senator, early in the morning." And it's really truly about the fact that those people who are affected by individuals with special needs, we don't pray to have children with special needs. God chose us to have these children. And so we know that we need to take it seriously and we need to do what we can. And when you have a child with special needs, or an individual with special needs, you really tend to constantly think and try to be proactive and figure out what can you do to protect your child, what can you do to empower your child, what can you do to make people aware about your child and the things that they may go through and the things that they may face and the challenges they may overcome, and things that may look little to several other people, like teaching my son where his pockets were. When he found out where his pockets were, I cried, whereas my other children knew exactly where their pockets were and were bragging about their pockets. So little accomplishments that you all may not think of are big accomplishments to us. And in waking up from this dream, I basically, in talking with Officer Sutton over the summer, said, there's nothing on there to let officers know if my child has a special need, has autism, has an intellectual disability, and can't actually function in the capacity of driving a car, but gets a little stoked when that police officer pulls up, or doesn't actually understand the responses or does not respond appropriately to the questions that are being asked, how do we make sure that law enforcement knows that my son has autism or my son has an intellectual disability, and can it protect him in some way? And that's how this came about. This, again, is completely voluntary, but for those individuals who drive and want the officer to know, then this is good for them to have, and it just protects them. I spoke with D.L. Hughley, who has a son with Asperger's, and he shared a story about how his son had gotten pulled over before, and he told his son, if you're pulled over and you cannot articulate clearly exactly what is on your mind or what it is you're trying to say, ask them to call me. That's when that other piece comes in, that in case of emergency, they know exactly who to call. Kyle could call his father and say, "Hey Dad, I'm in a situation, can you please talk with the officer?" And the officer can explain. Mr. Hughley's voice will calm his son down. And sometimes that's all you need. We don't need to detain, we don't need to arrest, we don't need to make the situation worse. So we're trying to protect our children from things that may happen that could very well be avoided. It's really mind-boggling that my daughter was in the car when I started this whole mission and went to DMV, and I was asking them about, what's the code for autism? What's the code for intellectually disabled? And they kept saying, well, someone can sign on their behalf. And I was saying, no, I'm talking about the individual who's actually driving, who has autism or intellectual disability. And their response was, they drive? And I was like, oh, okay. So I got in the car and I slammed my key in the hole, and I was, starting up and all mad. And Michelle said, They made you mad, didn't they, Mommy? and I had to kind of step back from myself for a minute and realize that if you don't live in my world, if you don't know the abilities of my son, if you don't know the expectations that I have on him, then you won't expect him to drive. He's only 9, but he will. He's only 9, but he will drive one day. And before he drives, we want people to be able to look on the ID and see that he has autism. He has an intellectual disability, but he can function. And he can tell us when he's happy, he can tell us when he's sad. But this bill came to me from God, I know, and is in my heart, and I'm so passionate about it because nothing bad has happened to my son. I'm not coming to you with JP's law because we've had a terrible situation or, I'm angry because. I'm coming to you all and asking you to vote yes for SB 367, JP's law, because my son is JP. My son will drive, and when he doesn't drive, he will have an ID on June 2nd, 2015 that I will voluntarily sign him up for that will have a code that notes he has autism. So that's it in a nutshell. I thank you all for your time. I ask you to take this seriously. Realize that individuals who have autism are not limited. They're only limited by what we put on them, not what they have on themselves. And this young man is going to drive one day. And when he does, and the officer pulls him over and things are a little out of sorts, he'll be able to pull out his identification card or his driver's license and say, "Hi, officer, I mean no disrespect, but here is my driver's license and I have autism." You have anything you want to say? You gotta say it loud. You gotta say it loud. It's good enough, that's good enough.
Vote yes for JP Snow.